Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to share our story. The title of the presentation is Building Market Share Through Organisational Transformation. It could have two other titles. It could also be called Practical Ideas to Help Create Positive Change, and it could also be called You Can Teach an Old Dog New Tricks. And that's not a reflection entirely of me, it's of an organisation. Quinton is very complimentary about the role I may have played in this transformation, but it's very important. This is not a story about the impact of an individual. It's about the impact of a leadership team. What we're going to cover today is what we found when we looked at the organisation and we did our first measurement. We did a full state of the nation. We certainly identified some interesting challenges, and when we measured, not surprisingly, we found that our actual impacts were a long way from our ideal impacts. What we did after that was develop a strategy, a good strategy, but I think, as Quinton has alluded, we committed to an even better execution. We developed company action plans, individual action plans. We relentlessly followed those up and we relentlessly executed them. And we'll go through that today. What we've achieved, I can show you that in a quantitative sense today, in our leadership impacts, in our employee engagement survey, which MasterCard conducts every couple of years, and also in our business performance. What's next for us? Continue to repeat the process. Sharing what we've learned, it will be about simple, effective guidelines that worked for us. So what we found? We found a very powerful competitor, probably still basking in their Olympic glory. We found a regulatory environment that was hostile with the Reserve Bank of Australia, reforming the credit card industry in Australia. A company that had become somewhat bureaucratic and compliant, driven somewhat by regional and international reporting requirements. We were in an environment where we'd only won 30% of new business agreements in a 3-year period. And if I was being honest with you, they were probably the smaller end of the opportunities that had been available to us. The values of the organisation were clearly published, but not embraced. They hadn't been cascaded effectively down through the organisation. The local team felt under pressure all the time and became very reactive, and our global employee survey in April 2002 was less than encouraging. At that time, the global board of MasterCard decided that Australia and New Zealand were priority markets for the company, and they set new goals for the organisation. And I would have to say ambitious goals. And like a lot of multinational organisations, they gave us limited time, limited resources, and there was a genuine expectation of success. So clearly, we needed to do something. So, the action. I think we definitely correctly defined the problem. We did that by getting the right consultants, focusing on the leading indicators, what really mattered in our organisation, what was going to make the difference. We defined that would be leadership, it would be culture, and it would be working on our internal processes. As I said, we engaged the right help, and PCD have been excellent partners through this process. And we agreed a comprehensive program with the senior team. We got buy-in at an individual level and a team level. We measured where we were. We developed aggressive action plans, and we got alignment on the things that we wanted to achieve. And then most importantly, and I will stress this through the presentation, we then remeasured. We had to understand the progress that we had made. So effectively we were looking for, and we needed, a situation where we could take 1 and 1 and make it 3. So where were we? The senior team leadership impacts. Looking in January 2003, and as you would expect, our ideal was ideal. The gaps in our actual leadership impact were somewhat dramatic. So a huge gap between the ideal and the actual, but sadly few surprises. Big extensions, as you'll see there, on passive and aggressive defensive styles, indicating no real focus and direction, probably meaning that there was a lot of effort going in, but it was probably a lot of wasted effort. But we had one thing to hold on to. At least our ideal was right. If we then look at culture, again, our ideal culture, and while there's a tiny bit more achievement in the actual culture that was measured, we probably, that was probably a reflection of the senior team, that there was a little bit more of that in there. And just to demonstrate a consistent message that leadership creates culture, if you look at where our leadership impacts were, and then our culture. And the data made it really difficult for us to blame anyone else but the leadership team. After we had quite an amazing session, an off-site for 2 days, when all this information was revealed. And there is obviously that human nature of there's initial denial. But in this particular team, there was very, very quick acceptance of the issues and extremely quick ownership of the issues. I'd have to say in record time. I think it spread through the room probably within an hour. People were running around sharing circumplexes, almost immediately discussing solutions, virtually right away. I can't really say to you whether we were lucky. I can't say to you that it was just because we had the right people, we were in the right place at the right time, or that we had the right program. But everything gelled. It all came together. There was an amazing understanding that we were all in this together. We had to come up with a plan, and a plan that would work, and it would work quickly, and that we were the ones that had to implement it. So let me take you through some of those elements. Clearly the circumplex showed a culture of avoidance, very low risk taking, pretty poor communication. They were approval seeking, overly focused on power, too high and competitive, and driving a lot of the execution side was the lower achievement scores. Causal factors, there was a lack of understanding of how can I make a difference. The lack of a clear link between the individual job and company outcomes, and clearly ineffective upward communication because the issues weren't coming to management. Low empowerment, performance appraisals were variable, and the leadership was more by position than by capability. I'll give you an example. At around the time we were finishing this first program, or embracing this first program, we had a major win. But this is in an environment, in an organisation that was driven strongly by the competitive style with a lower achievement style. And there was much celebration, as you do when you finally win a big deal. And literally, about 6 months later, we were tracking the business and how it was performing. And this particular deal had not really come to fruition. And it turned out that we really hadn't pursued it. We hadn't implemented the deal because there was so much about the competition. And once the competition was over and we'd won it, we forgot to implement it. We forgot to go and achieve what we were really set out to do in the first place. So that probably was a major piece of learning for the team. It showed the issues of having too much competition, and it showed really strongly the issues of not having a higher achievement style. Now this is the difficult part. This is where I talk about me. From an ideal point of view, I'm like most people. So I've got the right idea, eh? And this was my actual leadership impact. Obviously pleased with the achievement and self-actualising, and if you look closely you'll see that it's most unlikely that I'll be doing anything on a conventional level. Perhaps that's because I spent almost 30 years in the advertising industry. And one of the things that I was somewhat horrified with when I came into this industry was that I felt there was a distinct lack of innovation. There wasn't a strong enough commitment to generating new ideas and building momentum through that type of thinking. And I think that's probably partly the influence that I was definitely pushing the organisation towards embracing some of those innovative and idea generation activities. And I may have got a little red. So what we did, this is an eye chart. It is designed entirely to show you that what we did was thorough. From the leadership impact, we looked at structures, systems, symbols, innovations, capabilities, mindset. We cascaded that out all the way into specific action plans. We took a very comprehensive approach. And let's just have a look at some of the leadership activities that we undertook. So we measured the impact of the senior team. We developed plans. A most important part of how we brought this to the organisation and brought it to life was one-on-one meetings. So every individual had a one-on-one meeting with their manager. I at the time had 10 direct reports, and I had an hour and a half with each of those 10 direct reports. We understood at the end of that process exactly what we expected of each other and exactly the contribution we could make to the organisation. We had regular workshops to the extent that our action plans and our priorities were put onto a weekly work in progress meeting. Key message, we were very thorough. The process of face-to-face was incredibly important, and our overall key theme is a recognition that we're all in it together. In symbols and communication, we spent enormous amounts of leadership time on understanding and communicating what we were trying to achieve in the cultural transformation. We became totally transparent to our staff. We started sharing plans and results that people who had worked for the organisation for 16 years had never seen. We had all staff meetings. We showed them exactly how the company was performing. We talked about our future plans. We talked about what we'd learned in the whole Human Synergistics program. Effectively, we got everybody on board. We agreed our goals. We pushed hard to get everybody to embrace a stretch target. And at the end of the process, when we'd done pretty well, we celebrated our success. This is just one small visual from Luna Park where we took it over one night and everybody really let their hair down. But everybody was there knowing that they were there for a reason, because they'd worked hard and they'd made something happen. made it happen. And that was what it was all about. There's a tangible sense of achievement there on that evening. So it's always nice to look at results. MasterCard every couple of years does an employee engagement survey amongst about 5,000 staff globally. The results I'm going to show you are only for Australia and New Zealand, and they show the difference between the scores in April 2002 and October 2004. And between those two dates, we had our first measurement and program in January 2003, and we had our follow-up in June 2004. So the two programs happened in between these two scores. So Australian and New Zealand employees for MasterCard embracing the vision and values of the organisation. Each of these are summary areas of the organisation and pertain to about 8 to 10 questions. So the average score in 2002 was 75. In October 2004 it was 93. Employee commitment went up from 61 to 88. Leadership from 71 to 88. Performance management 62 to 85. And morale from 75 to 84. It's all during, with the interim period, a big action plan being implemented. Just some individual questions that I think are worthy because of the influence that this program has had on the attitudes of our people. I think it's worthwhile sharing these individual ones. Understanding what my work manager expects of me from 88. 88 was a high score. I didn't think we could beat it. We got to 96. We stay focused on critical tasks that need to be accomplished, 71 to 96. People work together as a team, 71 to 87. The one I'm most proud of, MasterCard creates an environment where people want to give extra effort, 53 to 86. Would you like to have an organisation where 86% of your staff said they'd like to put in extra effort? In the past year, we've improved processes and enhanced overall productivity, 53 to 73. So how does that transpire into the leadership impact remeasure? So in 2003, you'll remember it wasn't looking too flash. In 2004, it looks like that. I want to give you an example of just one member of our team that reflects exactly that transformation. It's a person that works in our operationals area and is an absolutely outstanding example of how you can develop a more effective leader. This person was probably the world's greatest devil's advocate. In 2002, if you took a problem to this person, they would be able to add 3 or 4 more issues to it. If you went to them asking for a solution, you would have to solve 3 or 4 problems before you could even start discussing the solution. This person embraced what they learned at our first offsite, went back to the team of 6 that they worked with, shared their circumflex, shared their issues, worked with each of those individuals in the team to work more effectively, to lead more effectively. And today, I'm very proud to say that people now go to this person for solutions. A total turnaround, and one of the first people that people would approach using a really strong knowledge of the business, believe it or not, to solve problems. So if we look at that, the strongest styles on that circumflex in June 2004 were all constructive. Had a significant reduction in the passive and aggressive impact, but we recognise there's still an opportunity for improvement. One more story. One of our very senior executives who adds tremendous value to our business was somewhat on the compliance side, very green. And they're like that because they never like to say no. because they want to add value and they want to do the right thing by everybody. As a consequence, the person missed a few deadlines by taking on too much and earned the ire of certain people. So I vividly recall a few weeks after our first offsite, and there was an email that this person sent out to another person, and it was, for this person, was really aggressive. Right? It was, you owe me this information. If I don't get this information, I'm going to miss a deadline, and I don't want to miss any more deadlines. So I sent him an email back, and I said, is this red behaviour? And an email flashed back, and it said, better than green. So, from January 2003 to June 2004, we see a positive shift in all 12 styles, very strong constructive. And the biggest shift is the reduction in passive behaviours, and we see now an organisation led by self-actualising, where the individual sees an opportunity to grow. And I would love to think a real entrepreneurial spirit building in our organisation. Again, if we have any doubt that leadership creates culture, leadership, culture. So the behaviours of our leadership team are certainly driving the culture. I think we've certainly achieved awareness. We've developed systems, we've applied action plans, and we are definitely beginning a transformation. This is the tough part again, this is me. So while I have increased in all 4 constructive styles, and I have further decreases in the passive style, my aggressive defensive style is still my mountain to climb. It's my work in progress. And well, it's a little dark out there, I can see all my MasterCard folks nodding their heads. My defence, of course, when I now talk about this with new people, is that this data is a year old and I've changed dramatically since then. Just a word of warning as well, when you see Rod Walker from Freedom Furniture's Circumplex come up during his presentation, I can assure you no one's that nice. I want to give you an example of the fact that people can change. And this is a remarkable story of an individual who took this whole process incredibly seriously. This person had an ideal impact of that, as we do. In January 2003, this person was seen by her peers at that. 18 months later, in June 2004, having developed a personal plan that was going to improve this situation, this person reached this. As Quentin will tell you, I asked for the data to be checked. I could not believe it. Her success has been integrating the leadership strategies into the day-to-day work, taking it to work with her every day, working with has a team of 6 or 7 people, working with individuals every day, not the same person from the operational area, I might add. And it has certainly paid off for this person with a recent promotion. I talked about a new business strike rate earlier as something that we had to deal with in 2002. We've now gone from a 30% success rate to winning 2 in every 3 new business pitches that we've been involved in, and fortunately some of the bigger ones. In market share terms, we've gone from 29% of total credit cards in the Australian market in 3 years to 40% in the latest numbers that have just been ratified. That's an additional 1.6 million credit card accounts. 1.6 million accounts equates to over 2 million cards. That's 2 million additional MasterCards in people's wallets in Australia in just 3 years. So what next? We're going to maintain focus on achievement. We like it. We think it's good. At MasterCard, we have a very exciting period that we've entered. We're no longer a member-based association that we were for 20-odd years. We've become a private stock company. We're regulated by the SEC in the US and we report to the SEC. It provides us with enormous new opportunities. It'll also encourage us to share even more information with our people. I stress the need for formal and informal sharing. MasterCard never had any all-staff presentations. We now have them quarterly. We award the Team of the Quarter. We have spot awards for outstanding performance. But we also have a wonderful network of informal communication with our people. And we need to continue our flexible approach. It's not always easy to get people to embrace change. Again, I come back to it. I don't know whether we were lucky or we just had the right people. But the way that the opportunity was embraced by the team has clearly had a very strong role to play in our achievement. And we will continue to formulate and communicate new goals for the organisation. And because those goals are everybody's business at MasterCard, in our staff room, you can't see it very well unfortunately, but there is a major presence in the corner of the room, and it is leading to our goal. It builds up. Each month that we get a report of our sales performance, it goes up and up. And once we achieve it, again, we will go and celebrate because we deserve it, because we're a very hard-working team and we're focused on results. So what have we learned? Well, I've certainly learned that people can change. If you create the right environment for learning and performance, you can certainly achieve more effective leadership amongst your people. It's important that everybody leads by example. And when I say everybody, I mean the entire leadership team. It's not down to an individual, it is definitely the entire team. Open and real communication. Authenticity, not getting caught up in cliches, call it what you will. We have a very direct way of communicating. People know where they stand, and I think they appreciate it. We share our learnings through the organisation. We operationalise or execute extremely quickly. The financial services market is not the easiest place to do things with speed, but everything that we've learned, all the ability to implement action plans that we have now got a really strong understanding of, has definitely helped us in speed to market. We have clearly aligned the organisation's systems, structures and symbols, and we have created a high-performance culture. But I have to tell you, you do have to invest. You do have to invest money and time, and you do have to work hard. At the end of the day, there is no quick fix. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic formula. It takes discipline, focus, it needs strong implementation, it needs repetition, and that all adds up to hard work and commitment. I really do hope that this is helpful. It is a practical ideas to help create positive change presentation, and I would love to think that it would help you lead to your own organisation's transformation.